Welcome to the Weekly Hijack.
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
4, 8, 15. Okay. We just finished orientation.
Oh, this is great Lost right here.
This is not just great Lost. This is great TV. This is one of the all-time great. Okay, we might be over-exaggerating a little bit, but it's a fantastic episode. Flip side in some ways of Man of Science, Man of Faith.
Yes,
because we definitely see both struggles here. Where do we begin?
No. How do you start? It's like we have to watch the film again. So, I guess it's interesting. I was thinking about this after last podcast. Is that the hatch is almost the perfect Lost answer? You know, they're working up to it. And it's the perfect Lost answer because they get into it, and it's just full of more mysteries.
Well, and it's such a great question in and of itself.
Yeah,
like it's a nice little like test and capsule in a hatch.
Well, and it's so great because, you know, at the end it's like it's just the button, but that's the entire season 2 is like we're just going to keep pressing this button and ask as many ways as humanly possible.
What does it mean?
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You know, is it just a psychology experiment or not? Is it just to turn the screw?
It is sort of a nutshell of the whole dilemma of the island, and in a nutshell, the man of faith, man of science. Yeah. It's a great concept.
And the thing is, they both have really good points.
Yeah.
And structurally, it's just very interesting that the whole show set up with this countdown that you really don't know what happens if you reach 0.
Yeah,
and as an audience, you're just like, we should press the button, but we don't know why. I mean, the audience is in the same place as Jack and Locke are. And I think they're very much on one end of the spectrum. There's probably some people watching, it's nothing. You know, it's just a mind trick. And other people are like, no, seriously, this is crazy island magic stuff.
Yeah. Well, and at the very end, you can almost imagine Saeed being like, okay, enough of this, you foolishness, and just pushing the button before Jack gets a chance to. But at the same time, you know, there's sort of this, like, gravitas to the whole situation that you don't know. You know, it says it's a button, but what could it actually do?
And it's one of those episodes that really have made, I mean, the finale of last year and then a couple episodes here, that if you didn't know already, Locke and Jack are your polar.
Yeah.
They're where everyone, I mean, it's an ensemble cast, but they're where everyone rotates around.
Well, what's interesting is on the surface, Jack shouldn't be as mad as he is here. I mean, like when he's holding Desmond at gunpoint at the end, he's like screaming at him. I mean, like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Desmond has really done anything to him, but it's just
he doesn't like this. He can't explain this stuff,
and there's this internal frustration with why am I meeting this guy that I met way back when? There's no reason why I should.
Why do I feel like there's a reason when there's no reason in his head? Well, that last question, one of the last questions they have when they're trying to get each other to press the button is, why do you find it so hard to believe? Why do you find it so easy? Because that's really them in a nutshell on the island in many ways.
And interesting here, with the flashback, you get greater context for Locke's answer. It's never been easy. And when we saw
such a sad man.
I know it's hard to watch Locke episodes now without feeling a great sense of sadness for him. Honestly, just knowing the way it all ends up.
Because he always did believe way too. I mean, he said he didn't, but he's always overcompensated his beliefs.
Mm-hmm. At the very beginning of the episode, there was a lot that was still. It felt like we were in the previously on, even after we had seen what happened to Sun and Jin after they got captured.
They finally got all the exposition out of the way, you know. And now we've hit the ground running. The Desmond's running away, and the computer got shot, and the countdown's going, and no one knows what it does. And watch. Okay, then we get Dr. Why can't I remember his name?
Oh, Dr. Marvin Candle, I think.
Well, that's what he said here. Yeah, that's not his real name.
It's not his real name. It's not important, I guess.
No. I don't know. Miles' dad.
I can't think of it.
But anyways, in this video, I remember people back when they were, you know, every time you get an orientation video, you're like, ooh, as it builds up. But like in this one, he has his wooden arm.
Yeah.
In some of them, he doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught that, Deb. One of his arms is fake.
Yeah.
If
I only know because people have noticed. And
I don't think I would have noticed the first time either.
No.
He only ever gestures with the one hand, and the other hand just stays. Well,
in other videos, he used both hands too.
Yeah, I guess from this video, you don't really know for sure, but later you do find out.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, because and I think they show the incident when it had him lose his arm. I think.
Yeah, it happened. What happens during the incident?
Yeah,
because of course it does.
Of course.
No, what I think is funny this time, I think this orientation video was 3 of 6 according to the thing, but it's the first time they actually bother explaining to the people what the Dharma Initiative is. Why did they give the history in the third one?
Well, I don't think because some of them were psychological experiments, and I don't think all the members always knew what they were getting into.
That's true.
The answer of what the Dharma was is very. I think Jack's half right.
Well, sometimes, yeah. I mean, they did do experiments like this.
Yeah,
I mean, it is interesting.
And I think they did use it as an experiment.
Yes. Well, it's interesting from a Dharma perspective. Well, but I don't know. It'd be dangerous to use the Swan Hatch as just an experiment.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can only guess the reason they didn't go into more detail in the orientation video is some of it they still try to keep secret.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be curious how often people actually were supposed to originally rotate in the Swan Station.
Well, they said every 540 days.
Oh, so like every year and a half. That's a long time to be down there.
And it is very interesting. And you get the whole like quarantine thing that right now we don't know anything about.
Yeah, why they do that? I don't even remember.
We get some in Desmond. From what I remember, it's been a long time, but I think Desmond's flashback at the end of the season.
Okay,
we get some.
I figured it's just another sort of trying to make sure they contain the people down there
thing. Yeah.
Dharma played all kinds of games like that.
I love that they get got Alvar, Hanzo, and Dr. Groot, and you got all the Groot. You got all this like. It has a lot of this history. You got like this 2-minute video, which is like the most exposition we've ever had in Lost.
Yeah, it was like a birthday present to all the lore aficionados.
Except the problem is all of it's like new names and figures and darn. You're like, what is all this?
But it's fascinating stuff, even though most of it is pretty irrelevant to the show, honestly.
But it's great if you're going to give information like that. Do it in such a bizarre like the sound keeps going out.
Grungy film perspective. Yeah.
Oh, classic.
Now, we haven't even talked much about what's going on with Sawyer, Jin, and Mike over in Tail Section land.
Territory. And it's interesting, too, because in a rewatch, you're like, okay, this is all, they're not actually others. But right now, you would have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. You might have recognized Ana Lucia because she was in the season finale.
Yeah.
The very astute people might have remembered, oh, that's her. I bet a lot of people
they would like, oh, okay, though she is part of the play, and then she gets called up by Echo, and you're like, what? Wait, what? You thought you'd seen the double con.
I think there's again maybe because we know ahead of time, but there's sort of a hint where Echo asks her like, what happened?
Who are they?
Yeah. So,
well, it's very. I mean, right there, the ambiguity. This episode is full of like, you really don't know the answer to anything. Just in the middle of, do we trust? Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Which the season 2 does a lot.
Whoa, especially when you get Ben in here. Ben is a huge...
So you try to hit the button or not, and is this guy another or not?
Can we trust anything he says?
Yes.
And the answer is no.
Never.
Probably not.
If he ever says anything, it's a lie. Until it's not.
Yeah. Okay. What did we miss, Natasha?
Nothing. No.
We got Hurley finding the food, and we have...
Let's not talk about Locke's sad flashback. It's just
it is sad.
Very unfortunate situation that he never really recovers from.
No.
But I guess that is all we've got.
It's a hard show. It's hard one to encapsulate because it's just good.
It's something to experience.
Yes,
is what it is.
So if you haven't watched it yet, I don't know if it's our rewatch episode, but
I do have to say though, Terry O'Quinn is a wonderful actor as always, but you love the transformation. He goes from like completely in despair and what he should do, and then the moment he sees Saeed, this like flood of relief of like he returns to his confidence.
Yeah.
Like this is what we were supposed to do.
Yes, he needs to know, what am I supposed to do?
And then once he thinks he knows, then he can be Mr. Yoda again.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've noticed more on this rewatch. I mean, we only make fun of Locke's "Don't tell me what I can't do." But Jack often says, "Don't tell me what to do." It's almost the opposite.
That's an interesting point.
I've noticed it more often this time. I'm not two or three times, not a lot, but he often says, "Don't tell me what to do." He doesn't like to be forced, and
no, and so the whole circumstances of you have to push this button all the time.
Yeah, I'm like
rub him the wrong way.
No kidding.
So
I wasn't sure he was going to.
All right, so are we ready for this next episode?
Sure.
Well, that was a sweet episode. We just watched Everybody Hates Hugo. And that was a sweet kind of reprieve from the craziness.
Hugo episodes are always very interesting because they're just tonally very different. Not very different, but different than normal episodes.
Well, it's not quite the... Well, Hugo's the everyman.
Yeah.
As opposed to Jack and Locke, who have these, like, Shakespearean dramas.
So his story's always a little more human in some ways.
And this one wasn't even about the numbers. It was just about the fallout from winning the lottery.
And I thought it was a really interesting choice. You know, they were going to have to deal with the food.
Yeah.
And to choose basically that everyone will hate him for. I mean, it's an interesting way to spin. You could have done the food in so many different ways, but to make it that personal, is what makes Lost work so often. You know, in other shows, you'd be like fighting about the food or something like that.
Well, it makes perfect sense in the context of the show, and it works perfectly with the fact, you know, Hurley really would have this history of this various... the analogy works remarkably well.
And it's a neat way to look at the lottery because it's a much more realistic way to look at lottery, the sense that, everything's going to change, people are going to look at me different.
Yeah.
You don't always think of that immediately. You just think, rich and bad luck. No.
Well, he hadn't even gotten there yet.
So they had to reprise the peanut butter thing, which is always nice.
Mm-hmm. I love the scene they were exploring all the ins and outs of the hatch, of the whole concrete and.
What do you think about this, Saeed?
It's like the last time I saw something this encased in concrete was like Chernobyl.
Like, okay, there might be something to this.
Yeah. Lots of great implications there.
Threw Rose in, which is fun. I mean,
yes, I haven't seen her. Actually, I'm of the opinion that more of the island problems would have been solved a lot earlier. They'd just gone to Rose for advice.
I know Rose, she didn't care. Rose and Saeed, just done everything we've ever been.
Yeah, they're stable ground.
Well, I thought it was neat for him to go back, but she was good. And then I didn't even think about the setup for Bernard. Yeah. Which was really nice.
Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, it would be in this part. So, yeah, just a lot of things just clicking into place just really nicely in this episode.
And it is a much more, just low-key episode after orientation. Which is, they've kind of done this so far, this sort of like deep anthology. And The Drift was kind of, more character-focused in some ways.
Mm-hmm. This one was, in some ways... reminiscent of season 1 in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Though. After all these crazy mysteries and after finally like wrapping up all the big stuff that had gotten started at the season premiere and from the fallout of the finale, we're finally back into the survivors just living.
And you really kind of need that because since the finale, like Charlie, some of these smaller characters you hadn't seen at all. People have been very Hatch centric. So you hadn't seen Sun or Charlie or Claire really at all. I don't think.
Or even Shannon.
Or Shannon, except for the little thing.
Yeah. They all had a little bit in the premiere, but yeah.
So you want to touch base with all. So it's like, okay, let's. Charlie talks about being at the kids' table. It's like going to all the B-listers at this point in the game.
Yeah. No, that's very accurate.
And poor Charlie is always on the B list, though. He's always trying desperately to be important.
Yeah. Well, and he winds up at the very end. A-listing.
Yes.
But I guess talking about B plots, and you've got the over on the tail end section. Again, kind of sorting things out with Ana Lucia.
Yeah, pretty quick, actually.
Hot lips.
Hot lips. Ana Lucia is really the tail section's Jack. Very intense, and we're going to get the job done one way or another.
Well, and she's more intense because of what the tail section people have gone through.
So she's the Jack and Echo's the Locke.
And it didn't... that's probably true. It doesn't help, too, that Ana Lucia was a cop, so she takes on this very authoritative tone. Which did not endear viewers to her.
No, I mean, I always thought she had an interesting role to play. I mean, she's not, I can see why people get annoyed with her, but it's an interesting niche that we don't really have anyone else filling.
It makes sense given it's just like when it's a stranger that you come across, and you're like, who the heck is this person? What No,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Anything else?
Met Echo and Libby for the first time, really. Libby for the first time.
That's right. I forgot that's Libby. I didn't even recognize her at first. she's so haunted in her first appearance, and later when she's with Hurley, she's much more at ease. So.
Yeah. I didn't remember when the food drop came. I thought maybe it was at the end of this episode just to ruin the whole like happy.
That would be ironic.
I'd be very lost. I couldn't remember. I thought it was too early for the food drop.
Yeah, it is funny that Desmond never even mentioned that.
Well, they ask him, how do you get food all the time? Jack, and he just like whatever.
I'm busy.
Yeah, he's like whatever. Well, it's interesting that they said that Hurley said there's enough food to feed one person 3 meals a day for about 3 months.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
when does that? That makes me wonder. When does the next food?
It's sometime in this season.
Is it?
Well, because that's when Hurley's invisible person starts showing up. I think.
Oh,
with Libby and everything.
Okay, you might be right.
There's a lot Desmond didn't tell them.
Desmond didn't care.
He didn't tell them about the incident. He had one, didn't he?
He's the one that shot. He pulled the plane down.
Yeah, because yeah. There's some other things I thought of in this episode that he didn't tell them.
Well, because that would spoil Lost if he told them everything. Well, plus he just didn't care. He's like, look, you're going to push a button, I'm done. Been doing this for how long was he doing it by himself?
I think he said 3 years. Well, not by himself. By himself, really only would have been like a few months.
Kelvin died. Yeah,
yeah, which would have been the same day the plane crashed. So
is that when Kelvin died?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I don't remember enough. But still, it's a long time to do it by yourself. And Charlie's like, how did he sleep? And all the questions. Well, especially Locke's like, I don't know.
Especially when he had no idea if like anyone else was even alive.
Yeah.
He was going through all kinds of paranoia.
Yeah. So, fun episode.
He left his picture of Penny inside the hatch, which is weird.
I think he was not stable at all at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the most. I mean, Desmond's always a little off, but that was the most unstable he really gets.
I bet he thought of that after the fact, but he was in such a panic just to leave. I mean, he already started making more sense by the time he started talking with Jack.
Yeah, he's out of the. I mean, I think that atmosphere, that
just being out of the hatch, made a big difference.
Oh, I'm free.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It's funny. Locke always says he wants to be special, and Desmond is a special one,
and he doesn't quite enjoy it.
No, he doesn't enjoy it at all.
Did they say what happened to the other 23 people?
Not yet. Oh, yeah, because
they'll get into that in the tail section.
The tail section had 23 people.
Yeah.
And now they don't.
It's going to be a few
episodes to get all that.
Yeah. I don't remember quite what's up next here, but I don't think
they had a rough time on the tail end.
Yeah. Yeah, they really did. Right. Okay, well, that's the Weekly Hijack for this week. Make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube and wherever else. No, that's the only. Oh, Stitcher. Are we on Stitcher?
I think so.
For Weekly Hijack?
I think it's the same RS feed.
Oh, I suppose that's true. Okay.
Unless, well, probably. I don't know, actually.
We think we know what we're talking about.
We should check that. None of us have Android, so we don't even look at it.
That's true.
And always subscribe to our regular podcast, Derailed Trains of Thought.
Absolutely.
New episode coming out semi-soon.
Yep.
Ish.
Soon-ish,
okay.
I think.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks a lot. This has been Tim.
This is Nick.
Bye, Jack.
Bye.
Bye.